All right, so this is Jim and Carlo with HOWIE Camp, and we are back today with a special little video. We're not talking about necessarily where we're at, but how we got here. The things that we need, or we feel like you're going to need if you buy a camper, the necessities. The day you go in to buy your camper, the dealership is going to try to sell you all kinds of things. They're going to try to sell you bug covers for this thing. They're going to try to sell you covers for your vents on the roof. A lot of the stuff you can buy aftermarket without, you don't have to pay their premium prices. You can buy it off the internet, put it on yourself. So we have a special guest recording for us today on his handy dandy stabilizing thing. So
yeah,
hopefully we need to get one of those. But Sooner Sasquatch, we talked about him in our last video. If you haven't had a chance to check his videos out, his his page out.
YouTube.
I'm going to link it in the description, so please feel free to take a look at his videos. But he's videoing for us, and so you're going to hear at times a voice in the background. That's who it's going to be. So
hi guys.
If there's anything that I miss, or if I go past and he asks questions, you'll know who that voice is. It's not just God talking to us. So, but anyway, we're going to start out with the most important stuff.
You guys have like a top 5 or?
Top 5.
Okay.
Let's go with 5. That's probably about right. We'll go with 5. But to start out, number 1 is that little thing right down there.
The electrical?
The electrical, yeah.
Okay.
The electrical, when we bought our camper, we knew nothing about camping at all. We had never bought a camper before. We'd never been camping before, other than just with people. And so one of the first things that the dealership told us about was campgrounds have varied levels of electricity. Electricity is up and down. So they sold us on this unit. It is a Power Defender by Power Grip, I guess. I don't know.
I'll let you explain it, and I'll come around and I'll film it.
But basically, what this is you hook it into your unit. It's a 50 amp unit. It has a step down, so you can hook it into a 30 amp as well. But what it does is it levels out your signal, so your voltage stays and your amp stay fairly constant throughout the entirety of your stay at the campsite. It's got 3 lights on it: red, green, and red, yellow, and green.
Okay.
If you have a green light, you're good. If you have a yellow light, you can still use it, but it's just kind of, hey, be careful. If you've got a red light, basically just don't use your electricity. It's just not it's not safe for use.
Okay.
But you know, this is
We've
probably
never had a red light.
We've never had a red light. Everywhere we've been has been green. Basically, what a green light tells you is that you have good enough electricity to where the unit will work, and you won't have a lot of problems. So this, absolutely, from watching other videos from other YouTubers, other people who are in the RV world, people we've talked to just being out and about, this is the first thing you want to buy. And you want to buy a good one. Don't buy, a cheap aftermarket. Just you want to buy a good one, because this is going to protect your entire electrical system in your camper. There are 2 things that can destroy your camper: water, which we'll talk about in a minute, and your electricity. If you short circuit or overload your camper, you're looking at rewiring the entire thing, and you don't want to do that. So that's number 1.
That's good points.
That's number 1. Also, on top of that, we have our power cord. It's a 30-foot power cord. We haven't really run into this yet, but there are some places that a 30-foot power cord is just not enough. Unlike this weekend, we
pulled in backwards. We pulled through the opposite direction so we could be facing our sister-in-law and have our little area. And so we had to stretch our electrical a little bit further than we normally would.
Yeah, 60 foot would have been a whole lot better. And so if a 30-foot extension is $50. So I mean, you can get them online for about $30. But it would have been nice to have had a little bit of an extension there. So, but that's number 1. Number 2 would probably be, like I said a minute ago, electricity overloading your camper can destroy your camper. Number 2 is water. We had a leak the second time we took it out.
Second time.
It was in the winter time.
It was in between the first and second times. It happened after the first time we camped.
Yes.
So we had to fix it before we camped again.
We used our water pump, and they don't tell you this when you buy your camper. You do your walkthrough, and they don't tell you everything. So this is something we learned. We used our water pump the first weekend that we went. We used regular fresh water through our water pump, and then it froze. And what happened was our water pump, the fitting on the end of the water pump cracked and busted. And so the next time we went out to use our camper, we turned on our water pump and water went everywhere. We had water inside the entire camper. We didn't know why. We thought so we took it in. They told us what happened. They ran RV antifreeze through the water pump and it's fine now. We just don't use our water pump
We don't ever use it.
But that being said, water will destroy your camper. It's made out of pressed wood, particle board, laminate.
Very light materials.
Very light materials.
Easily warp.
Because this camper is 7,500 pounds dry, and that's the reason why we bought it. We wanted it to be fairly lightweight. Well, lightweight materials is also, they're not the most. It's not solid wood, and so water will destroy it. So anyway, with that being said, these campers are made. The water system is PVC. It's made to a PSI standard. And I believe the PSI standard is 45 PSI.
So, yeah.
It may be less than that, maybe more than that.
It'll say on your model thing with all the description, it'll tell you what your PSI should be.
Yes. So anyway, we bought a regulator, a very inexpensive. This was $19.95, I think, at Walmart.
Could have saved us all that work with the water.
So we bought this. It's basically just a water regulator. It takes whatever the pressure is coming from this and it downs it to an appropriate. This is 35 psi, and so the pressure coming out of this is 35 psi. It will never
just
get
this black
higher.
piece here.
Just the black piece here.
Black
You can get these metal. You can get these plastic. This has on this side. If the pressure is too high, there's a little bit. There's a check valve, so it'll release that pressure. But you can get a metal one. They actually have some that are really fancy that have a little gauge on it, a little valve where you can up it or down it if you want a little bit more pressure, if you want a little bit less pressure. Those are like $100. I didn't want to do that. Just as long as I got my pressure and it's stable, that's all I care about. On top of that, we bought a HOWIE. There are some places you go to where you're a community water, which means that like our site, that site, they're all going to use the same pump. So. We got a HOWIE to put onto our spigot so that if we are in community water, we have our own, they have their own, and we're not having to unhook water from everybody. Right. I've seen these where people have a 4-way and then another 4-way and another 4-way, and that's craziness. It doesn't happen very often, thank God. But I use this every time because we have dogs, and I can just come over here and pop this on this side, fill them up with water.
We don't have to unhook.
We don't have to unhook everything
or go inside.
Yeah, it just gives us a little bit of freedom as far as that's concerned. But this is kind of an extra. I didn't say this when we did our last video, but the hose that you use is important as well. You want to use, and it'll say right on the hose package, water safe or drinking safe water hose. A lot of garden hoses are not drinking safe, or let me rephrase that. They're drinking safe, but they taste really bad. They'll make the water taste bad. Yeah. These, it'll say right on there, drinking water safe or camper safe.
And they are also typically white.
And they're typically white. We use a white one, and this is all for water. Our black hose is for sewage and dumping or potable water, or non-potable water. Is that right? Non-potable?
Non-potable, yes.
So we have a black hose, and we have a green hose, and we have 2 white hoses. But anyway, a good solid water hose. We use, we've only been to one place where we needed more than 30 feet.
And then we had community water.
Yeah, we had to go
stretch all, like
150
across the
feet.
street.
It was crazy.
And over. It was.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
And our hose
we
got
had to
run
buy
over.
like 3 new hoses because we didn't have enough hose to reach.
So a good water hose is good. So this is, again, on top of this is something that you need. So number 1, electrical. Number 2, a good solid water regulator. So.
And the different color hoses is kind of neat because you can keep them color coded to which one goes.
Absolutely. It just you don't want to get them. You don't want to get your sewage hose and your water hose mixed up. The number 3, and probably this is not something that you necessarily have to have, but it's something that I feel like has been makes the setup and tear down of our camping experience significantly easier.
Are you
this is more like
the Dumaflogy at the end of the fligamajiggy?
That's right. This is a Dumaflogy? No, technically this is not a Dumaflogy. It's a impact driver. You can use just a regular drill if you don't have an impact driver. I just use an impact because it's kind of cool.
So this is more of a tip for your viewers here.
This is a tip. Now this is number 3. This is, in my opinion, this is number 3.
necessity.
You don't have to have this, but I can tell you right now, when you have this, it shortens your tear down and setup significantly. Everybody knows when you get here, you got to use your jacks to stabilize your camper, and it takes forever to sit there and hand crank the thing. This just makes it to where you can literally hook on, it's up, it's down.
Do you want to show them the hand crank?
So
the old way?
Show you the hand crank. Well, basically all this is just a half-inch. It's a half-inch bit, flex fit bit.
Okay. So everybody can see it.
Yeah, and a number 19 socket.
Okay, and that's pretty standard on
Any
most
number 19
campers.
socket. Yes, 19 metric socket. And then so anyway.
Here's the old way.
The old way, you hook it in and you crank and you crank and crank
so
4 times because you have 4 stabilizers.
Right, you have to do that. You have to do it 4 different times.
That makes it very quick.
Doing it like that, we can show you, but doing it like that, it takes about a couple minutes per side. Or I'm sorry, per thing to jack it down or to take it back up. This is like literally like a couple of seconds and you're done.
Yeah.
So it really does save you a lot of
time.
Speaking of setup and teardown, number 4 would be our Anderson hitch trailer gear.
Okay.
So basically what this is, and you can see it back up underneath it here.
We had to level out the camper when we got here.
You have, when you level out your camper, there are other ways you can do this. There are places, you know, I've seen people with, my parents have
cinder blocks that you drive
cinder
up on,
blocks. I've seen people with the little Lego bricks that work really well.
You can stack 2 or 3 depending on how high you need to go.
The great thing about this is it literally is infinite on how much you can raise it or lower it. I mean, it's
if
very
you just
finite.
need a smidge, you just have a little tiny bit. This is
like
the
those
one,
blocks.
Or do you have a lot?
Yeah, the little Lego blocks, you have to go up an inch or 2 inches or 3 inches. This literally, you can go half an inch, you can go a quarter of an inch. But basically what you do is you put the little half moons underneath the tire and you drive up on them. And then you watch your bubble. When it's exactly where you want it, you put your parking brake on, you throw your chocks in, you're done. And that's
this comes with the little leveling moons, the chocks, the pads to go under your stable, all of that. All of that. It was so worth the investment.
It's all in one kit.
Made by Henderson?
Made by Anderson.
Or Anderson.
Anderson hitches, yeah.
Anderson.
And the great thing about this is we broke that one over there. You can see it's broken. We broke that the first time that we used it. So we called Anderson and they said, yeah, if you'll just mail that into us, we'll send you a replacement. The problem is we use it so often, we just haven't had a chance to send it in.
But that's good by the company that they will replace it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It does also come with this great big half moon, which is used for, it's a jack. So you put this under one tire, you back it up onto it, and it will lift up the other tire so you can change it.
The one behind it.
So you don't have to sit here and fight while you're on the side of the road. We have luckily not had any blowouts.
Ooh, knock on wood.
But with this, it literally, we can put that underneath the tire, pull it forward, and we can have our tire jacked up, our trailer jacked up on that side in about 30 seconds. Where if you've got to use a jack and all of that nonsense, you're looking at probably 5 or 10 minutes and a lot more work. So that is a fantastic little
yeah, that's pretty cool
little thing. I didn't even realize it was in there until after we got it out, and I was like, what's this great big one for? And then I did some research on it, and sure enough, it's a jack. So
did your camper come with any wheel chocks at all?
Came with nothing.
No.
That was one of the things
no chocks, no pads.
So that's a good
when
point.
You buy a camper,
this is all of it.
When you buy a camper, you get your power hose, your power cord. Sorry, not hose. You get a power cord. You get
a sewage,
a standard plastic sewer dump hose, which we'll talk about again in a minute. And you get nothing else.
The key.
And a key.
Yeah.
Everything else, the camper is completely empty other than the sewage hose and the power cord.
So that's good. That's good information for anybody buying a new camper.
If you, again, ask questions when you go to buy your camper, because there's going to be things that you're going to need or want that you're going to make sure, you want to make sure that, one, you have a sewage hose.
Right.
There are campers out there that do not have a sewer hose. And if you
Wow.
don't ask for it, you don't get it. So most
I did not know that.
do, but some of them don't. And speaking of sewer hoses, that will be number, what are we on?
5.
1,
That's
2,
the fifth
3,
one.
4. So number 5, we did buy the upgraded sewer hose. And the reason for that is, before we bought the camper, that was the one thing that I did a little research on. Because the sewer hoses that they put in the camper are a cheap plastic, and they do disintegrate really quickly.
You don't want that to crack on you while you're emptying out the poo from the weekend.
Yeah, that would not be good.
I will do a completely separate video on how to do a black tank disposal. I'm not going to do it
It's
today.
the most fun part of camping.
But it's the most fun, and it's also one of those, it's the part of camping that if you don't do it right, you end up with a lot more problems.
Yeah.
So there's a correct way to do it, and then there's a way you can do it, and you're calling people all the time, why is my black tank always full? And there's a reason. We'll get into that later.
Anyway,
but
we got the, it has several sections.
Gorilla Hose is the name. It's a company that makes, it's a Gorilla Hose. It is 2 sections. It literally is about 20 feet long at its longest. We also did buy the elevator, which basically it's a accordion looking thing that we put underneath.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we bought that as well. But the Gorilla Hose is nice because it has, at the end, it has a clear elbow.
The elbow's
So you
clear.
can see the fun juice going into the,
Mm-hmm.
into the poop hole.
Yeah.
So
well, then that way you know when your water is clear, you're
Yes.
done.
again,
running it out.
when we do the disposal, you'll understand why that's important. But yeah, you want to see. I know you probably don't really want to see the poop juice, but it's important that you do.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, we bought that as well. Those 5 things, in my opinion, there's a lot of things. You know, again, when you go to buy a camper, there's a lot of things that we didn't have a clue when we bought our camper. We just wanted to buy a camper. You know, the main thing we had two things that we were really concerned about: weight and
Yeah.
size. You know, we wanted a camper that was going to be big enough for our kids, and we wanted a camper that was light in weight. That's all we cared about, and we didn't know any better. And so that's why we're making these videos, because we want to help people who were just like us. We had no idea what to get. This is all you need. These 5 things. Other than that, it's just the stuff that you want to take.
Right.
Do you want lawn chairs? What kind of lawn chairs do you want? That's all stuff that you can buy
Mhm.
at Walmart and save yourself some money. The dealership is going to try to sell you things like the bug covers, the things that you don't need. They're good. They're good to have, and it does save you some maintenance down the
But
road.
especially if you're on a tight budget.
But you don't
and
have to pay.
You want to spend
premium
$200
prices.
for this, or do you want to spend it for that? That's
Yeah.
a necessity.
Yeah,
That will
absolutely.
save your camper and give it a
Absolutely.
longer life.
And don't
So-
be afraid if you buy your camper. Don't be afraid to tell them no, and go buy the stuff, you know, off the internet. Amazon sells all this stuff. You can buy everything. The water filter, again, we didn't touch on a water filter. You want a water filter for your water line going into your camper. Water filter, the water regulator, the electrical regulator, all of that stuff you can buy off of Amazon and save yourself a significant amount of money before you ever go to the dealership.
But if you're like us and you want to drive off the lot with your camper and go
Ready to
straight
go.
to the campsite,
Yeah.
you can get it at the
Yeah.
dealership. So.
Don't, again, and I don't want to get off into financial politics, but you know, again, people, they're going to tell you, hey, you can just finance this. Don't do that. You don't, because we spent what, $2,500 on accessories, and we only needed about $1,000 of it.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to finance it. You know, financing $1,000 on a $27,000 purchase, you're paying on that for 10 years. It's not a good idea. So anyway, you have options. There are things that you need. There are things that you want. The dealership's going to try and sell you on a lot of things that are just really not necessary. So
What are the top 5 though?
those are the top 5.
You need to splurge
Um,
on.
Little things like you know, like the little bubble levels that we put onto our camper after the fact. If you don't have one on your camper already, tell the dealership you want them on before you get your camper. Everybody's seen a little bubble level. It's just
Let
like
me
what
walk
you
over
have.
and show it.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, just like what you have on your, just like what you have on a little
Like a level,
carpenter's
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's
and,
just
and they're not going to want to lose a $30,000 sale over a $5 level.
Yeah.
So likely, if you ask for it, they'll put it on for you.
Yeah.
I will give my #1 tip for buying a camper. The day you go in to buy your camper, the #1 thing to remember is that you have the checkbook. That you have all the control. Dealerships, any car, whether it's a car or a camper, you have all the control. You're the one making the purchase decision. So ask every question that you want to ask. Expect an answer on every question that you ask. And if you have things that you want done, whether it's having a bubble level put on your camper or having the brake switch put into your truck, make them do that. Tell them, hey, look, I don't have a brake control in my truck. I'll buy this camper if you install that for me. Like she said,
They
a
usually
$27,000 camper deal is not going to get lost because you don't have, you know, your camper
$50
switch.
part.
So,
Or, yeah.
so what's one thing that you learned in our camper buying experience that you wish you would have known when we bought our camper?
Everything. I didn't know any of it. I had never camped before. I hadn't even been tent camping, so
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned so much doing this. I couldn't do it by myself,
Yeah.
but
Well, I can see where this video is going to help someone who's stressful about going to buy a new camper. I mean, this will help out. I mean, just the little small things. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's important stuff.
oh, it's very important because, you know, like you said, if you ruin the water, bust a pipe, or ruin the electricity, then that's a $27,000
You've ruined your
paperweight
camper.
that you have.
Yeah, you've
And-
ruined, and your insurance isn't going to cover that. So
If
you've ruined your
Things to
camper.
fix,
If
so.
you guys have any suggestions on future videos you'd like for these two to do on any sort of camping videos, put them in the comments below, and they'll pump them out for you.
Absolutely, and make sure that make sure you like it, subscribe. If you like these kind of videos, this is something that we've only done. This will be number 5. This will be our 5th video, but we're going to Eufaula next weekend. We're going to make a couple videos while we're there. We want to make videos that are helpful to people. We've been doing this for about 2.5 years now. For people who are just getting into RVing, we've got a lot of experience in just a short amount of time that we've been doing this. We want to help you guys out, so please hit the like and subscribe buttons.
And don't
lastly,
forget about Sooner Sasquatch.
yes, make sure that you hit up
Just
Sooner
check 'em out.
Sasquatch as well, because it's a little bit of a a lot of the videos are videos where it's just nature. Going
I
out
do a
and
lot of
seeing
hiking.
things.
It's
Do
just a lot of hiking
Doing-
videos.
Seeing things that are out in nature that kind of hard to explain. I've been with him a couple of times and seen some things. I was just like, oh, wait a minute. We went one time. Just real quick story. We went one time and we saw some berries in a tree. They were about 6 feet up off the ground. How do these berries?
Stashed in a little
It was-
cubby hole, huh?
Crazy. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird. It was just weird. I told you guys about the monkey sounds in the middle of the forest in Oklahoma. We don't have monkeys in Oklahoma.
Hey,
So-
we need to go get dinner on the table.
Yeah.
So, dinner on the table?
Yeah.
All right.
They're ready for dinner.
Well, with that being said, we will end this video. But thank you to Sooner Sasquatch for coming out and videotaping.
You're very
for us
welcome.
today.
A nice stabilized frame.
Yeah.
We won't be all
Yes,
jittery.
You're gonna have to
we
get
might
you
be
one of
buying
these.
I know.
So, do you have a question or anything before we go
I do not.
about the camping and camping lifestyle?
I do not.
All right, very good. Well, with that being said, hope this was helpful to all of you in YouTube land. Anyway, I'm Jim,
And I'm Carla.
And
we are.
This is
This is
How We
How We
Camp.
Camp.
God bless everyone.